Hey guys, welcome back to the Art of Craftsmanship. My name is Dustin, and today in the shop we're making a Scottish Dirk. Now we're part of a larger group of YouTubers that are doing a Dagger challenge, and this is my Dagger. Now today I'm going to be making this out of 80 CRV2. We're going to have some brass and some wood for the handle with some carvings on it, but we're going to be making the handle out of this funky wood shark. This is some super dense wood. My buddy Jim gave this to me, so we're going to cut it up and we're going to use this as the handle material. Let me show you my design and we'll get started. Now, the great thing about the Scottish Dirk is that there's a huge variety of different styles, so I can kind of do whatever I want. Mine is going to be 16 inches long, which is kind of about typical, and about 1.5 inches wide. The things that almost all the Scottish Dirks have is that they have a fuller, and it's usually running down one side, not straight down the middle, as well as it's sharpened along one edge of the blade and then just a portion of the other edge of the blade. So I'll be following along with that. Lastly, the handle is going to be fairly short, less than 5 inches, and it'll have a brass pommel and guard. It'll be carved. I'm going to do some kind of fun Celtic knot carving on it, which all just goes back to that Celtic history and the Scottish history, which is part of our family, which is the great reason why I want to do this type of dirk. I've laid out the design for the blade, and now I'm working on the tang. Now, the tang needs to go through the handle because it's going to be a hidden tang. So it's going to taper from about 1/2 inch down to 3/8 inch at the end of the handle, and then it's going to go all the way out. I'm going to leave myself some extra room so I can decide if I want to peen the tang over later or if I want to thread it to do like a pommel knot or something like that. I just finished cutting off the big chunks with the 4-inch angle grinder. That's a Harbor Freight 4-inch angle grinder. It works perfectly. Don't be ashamed of your Harbor Freight tools. They work just as well as every other tool. But let's head over now to the 2x72 Revolution grinder for Brian House, our custom 2x72, and profile the rest of this down. When you receive steel from the supplier, it's going to be annealed, which is why I was okay with doing my cold hammering on this to straighten it up. And I just wanted to straighten it up. Had a little bit of a wiggle in it, so I want to make sure it's nice and straight for my heat treat, but specifically for grinding in my fullers, which we're going to do now. I marked off my blade with some blue Dicom, and I'm going to mark my fuller line. Now, historically, these fullers on Dirks are off to the side. They're not straight down the middle. So I had to decide if I want that fuller to run parallel with the center line or parallel with the edge. And it looks like most of them are parallel with the edge. So I'm going to mark off 2 spots along the edge with the same distance, and then I'll run a straight line between those, and then I'll grind the fuller. let's see, what is this? This is 3/16, maybe a quarter inch grinding disc. This is used to do general grinding, but I'm going to be setting this up on my grinder with a guide clamped onto my blade, and then I'll run this along the guide and grind in my fullers, at least to get them started, about 10 inches down the blade. Take a look at this side. I have this file, which is just the right size to get inside here, and I'm just using 80 grit sandpaper. After heat treat, I'll come back in and clean all this stuff up. But for now, I think this looks really good. So we can head upstairs, get the forge lit, and start the heat treat. For my heat treat, I'm heating the blade up 3 times, 3 normalizing cycles in the forge, and then on my 4th heat, I'm going to quench it. I'm quenching it in canola oil, and then after the quench, I just check it for straightness, and then I'm going to bring it over to the post vise and clamp it in between 2 pieces of angle iron. That'll make sure it's nice and straight. And I take that whole angle iron setup and take it into the house, and I temper the blade in the oven at 400 degrees for 2 cycles of 2 hours each, letting it cool in between. For a more in-depth look at the heat treatment process, you can check out some of my other videos, which I'll link down below if you want to see that process a little bit more in depth. Well, this turned out really good. I'm really happy with this heat treat. So next thing we're going to do, I need to go over to the grinder. I'll clean off all of the forge scale, and then I'll mark out my bevels and grind my primary bevel and my secondary bevel. Now that I have my layout fluid, the first thing I'm going to do is mark my center line on both sides, the primary and the secondary edge. Then I'm going to grind a 45-degree bevel or so right up to that edge. So I've kind of find that center and I have that straight down the edge first, and then I'll bring the rest of my bevels all the way down and all the way up to the center line of the actual blade. I use my 36 grit belt to do my initial bevels to a center line, but then ground all the way up to the spine and round it off the false edge. And I'm doing that because I want this to be a convex grind the whole way. So I used 36 and then I went up to 80, moved up to 160, and then to 220 to do my final grinding. And after the 220, I used my Scotch-Brite belt to basically polish everything and give me a really nice, like matte polished finish. Our next step is cut brass and wood for our handle. That long square out there. So we're looking at about something like that. Well, it took some doing, but we got this piece of wood out of the middle of the body of this fish, and there's plenty more here to be able to use for other material for handles and stuff in the future. I posted this on Instagram, and the consensus seemed like it was desert ironwood. It's heavy and dense like that. It looks like it from what I looked up, so it's a pretty good chance that it is that. Now with this handle, I'm going to do a little bit of pre-shaping on the wood, but mostly I need to pre-shape the bolster and the pommel, which are both brass. These are both going to have holes through them so they fit on the tang. There's going to be a screwed in pommel nut on the end of this, which I'm going to do as well. But for now, I need to pre-shape these a little bit. big. After we finished filming last night, I kind of rethought what I wanted to do, and I really wanted to try to rethread the tang. So I was able to rethread it with a 1024 thread, which is a little bit better. It's nicer, it's a little deeper, and a cleaner threading on this. But because of that, I also had to remake the butt cap. So this is the first butt cap, which was okay, but it had a little bit of a gap to it. So I remade it. This one's a lot cleaner, and I rethreaded it with the 1024 tap inside. The last thing I did also is I actually went out to Harbor Freight and I got a really cheap round rat tail rasp. Now this is a really aggressive rasp for removing wood, and I ground the sides flat, both sides, so that way it's narrow but it has the teeth on the front and the back. And this has actually worked really well. I actually ground the tip off as well as about a 1/4 inch or so that didn't have any teeth on it. So I ground that off, and this worked really awesome as a brooch to be able to clean out the inside of the wood handle. See the brass through shining? Oh, it looks awesome. Well, we have the general shape kind of done. I'm going to leave this all together while I'm grinding so that way I can cut the corners here. These corners I'll grind off, as well as out on the butt cap. Get that all rounded. Get even tapers from front to back, from the pommel down to the butt cap. And then once we get that, then I'll transfer this thickness here to our width here, and we'll trim down this as well. I'm going to draw out my pattern on the wood on one side first, see how I like it, and then I'll move to the other side and try to draw the same thing. And we'll start carving down just the initial shapes, and then we'll keep moving from there. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to switch to my smaller collet now and put in this tiny little bird that I started with to do the line work, this little guy. And I'm going to use this to add some texture in the low areas between the ribbons. And that'll help to define that higher area as well as give some texture to that low area for my hand. That's looking really nice now. Really defines the pattern of the knot work. I go in now and just do some cleanup on the top of these, and also some of the scratches that I have left on the top and bottom, which will be sanded up to 220. Everything will be touched up, and then I'm going to continue the heirloom fit up. I have that at the top and bottom of the wood. I'll continue that into the brass bolster and pommel. Obviously, some of you won't see those scratches once it's all stained dark. You're just seeing them because it's that light colored sawdust is fitting down in there. Right there. All right. All right, there. We're sanded up to 500. I'm really happy with that. I love this definition between the flats with all the texture and the surface. I'm going to take this apart. I'll work on the heirloom fit up between the wood and the brass on both sides, clean these up, finish them, and then we'll come back and we'll decide what we want to do to finish the wood handle. Ooh. Hit that surface a little more. Ooh, baby. I want to go really dark with this handle. Seems a little bit of a shame to darken this wood, but I really think the darkness of the handle is kind of what I was going for from the beginning. Before I knew what this wood was, you know, this is kind of where my mind was, and really dark, and I'll get some of that, but there's some light in this, so I'm going to go ahead and hit it with some dark walnut stain to just take it a little darker. I'm going to kind of wipe off the excess now, and then I'll add another coat on top of it right away, and then I'll let that sit a little bit longer, and then I'll wipe the excess off again. Oh, look how beautiful this is looking. I'm so happy. Woo. I'm going to let this sit on here for a few minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. But while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to go ahead and pull the tape off of the blade, clean up the dicom that's still on it, give it a once over, and then we'll get ready to put it all back together after we sharpen it. And a lot of people ask what this is. If you don't know, if you haven't seen my other videos, this is boiled linseed oil. Final fit up time. Here we go. All right, guys, well, I could not be happier with the way this turned out. I had so much fun carving the handle, planning this out. I love the brass with the dark wood. Just the fuller was really fun to do and turned out really good. The blade is awesome. All in all, I was super happy with the way this turned out. So this is part of the Dagger challenge. So if you have not already, go over, check out the other videos. They'll all be linked in the description below, as well as the link for the form for voting. So you got to vote for your favorite Dagger. I know you're going to vote for this one because this is my favorite Dagger. I'm super excited about it. I know you guys are as well. So thank you all so much for watching. This has been a blast. Make sure you don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.